In today's show, we're recapping all 10 games from Wednesday in the NBA. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. There are 10 games on. We're going to talk about all of those games. Bit of a recap on some news as well.
All right, that's good stuff.
Let's take a look at the news. A bit of an update on Rudy Gobert and his calf. Also, Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell, they said, chance he returns on the weekend. They play Friday and Sunday. So you'd have to think he's out Friday. Obviously not the weekend. Maybe they're including Friday night as part of the weekend. I don't think so. He'll be back Sunday, perhaps. As for Gobert, the report from Sarah Todd, one of the reporters for the Jazz, stated that it's only considered mild. They're going to be cautious with him. But yeah, there's every reason to believe he plays before the All-Star break. And I read that and went, what? Before the All-Star break? That's like 3 weeks. They're officially saying day to day. And they expect him to be back within 3 weeks. And I bloody hope they expect him to be back within 3 weeks. So that means that further strengthens the value of having Hassan Whiteside on your team at the moment. I don't know what this means for Gobert. Does it mean 1 week out? I would think he's out the rest of this week. Maybe half of next week, maybe the rest of next week. We don't know exactly, but that's what she put out there. So I'm not expecting Gobert back for the Friday game. But yeah, that's an update. It's a little bit troubling. Lonzo Ball, he's having surgery tomorrow, and then the 6 to 8 week time frame clocks on. So yeah, as we always say with knee injuries, whatever the time frame is, add a little bit extra on. That's generally a safe way to go. It was impossible to hold Lonzo Ball anyway. It's even more impossible to hold Lonzo Ball now because of this delayed surgery. Like, he was going to be back mid-March anyway. He's going to be back mid to late March now. There's no way that you can hold on to him in that scenario. Terrence Davis, who had put up some really good games with the absence of Halliburton and then Fox, has suffered a wrist ligament injury, and he is out indefinitely. I would assume we're talking 4 to 5 weeks. I would guess with Davis. He's a pretty clear drop. It happened when one of the Celtics players slid under him to try and take a charge. Hate those plays. Just absolutely hate it. Try and contest the shot. Jump and contest. Don't just try to get bowled over to get the foul. I think they're really dangerous, those players, and I think there's no actual place for them in basketball. Oh yeah, but charges are actually a form of defense. Cool. Play different defense. I know that that's part of the rules and it's always been part of it. It doesn't mean shit can't change. It's a dangerous play that actually doesn't require you to do anything in terms of producing a defensive play. It's like, please smash into me. I just don't like charges. It's simple as that, and I think they're a dangerous play. And another injury here with Davis out. That's going to give a little bit of a boost to Davion Mitchell. We'll talk about that with the Kings a bit later on, and to Budrick Hield. We'll talk about him a little bit later on as well. Bob Covington has a knee problem. Not great when Nance and Zeller are already on the shelf. We don't think it's a serious one for Cov, but we'll wait and see. Hold him for now. Domantas Sabonis, possible return on the weekend. They play a Friday, Saturday back-to-back, so maybe Saturday's game. I would rule him out for Friday, would be my guess. And then maybe a return on Saturday. That's going to put an expiry on Goga Badadze and Isaiah Jackson's value. You might get one more game out of them on Friday, but if he returns on Saturday, then yeah, they're done. And then Gordon Hayward, out for COVID protocols. That's boosting Kelly Oubre. We saw that today. Cody Martin's minutes are up. We thought maybe PJ Washington, but no. That didn't happen today either. But yeah, just keep that in mind that those guys get a boost in the short term while Hayward is out. And then when Hayward comes back, Martin and Oubre, they most likely go back, in most cases, to the waiver wire. Before I go on to tell you about the games, I'm going to tell you about BetOnline, because they're here to wish you a happy new betting year. And they remain the number one spot for all of your sports wagering action for 2022. BetOnline is the place that is here. New year, new you, new updated desktop site. new mobile site as well. So why don't you go on there, use the code Locked On, and sign up and get a free, well not free, get a 50% welcome deposit bonus on your first deposit. From basketball to football, the NHL, boxing, UFC, or right to your favorite Vegas casino game, don't wait and take advantage of all of the fantastic offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. NBA trade deadline is just around the corner, Thursday, February the 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to have a show for you, Locked On NBA Live, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Thursday, February the 10th. Join Kim Becker, John Corrales, NBA veteran Antonio Daniels, and Locked On Fantasy Basketball veteran Josh Lloyd, hosting the show, breaking down every move that happens, along with hosts right across the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe to the Locked On NBA YouTube channel, turn on notifications, and you will know when we go live. Let's talk about these games. Some absolutely wild games today, and that seems to be a theme in the NBA at the moment. Just wild shit going on all over the place. This was a pretty wild one. The Hornets and the Pacers. Just look at the score. The Hornets almost dropped 160 points in a regulation game. Just fell short 158 to 126. We know they have a high-powered offense, but that's ludicrous. 38 minutes for LaMelo Ball. 29, 10, and 13. He had been playing, not great. Minutes have been down. But back now over the last 2 weeks, he's the 20th best player. Like, he's jumped way back up. Had a steal and a block. He was shooting 69% from the field.
Giggity.
He was another 80% from the line. 63 fantasy points. Great stuff. Kelly Oubre. 35 minutes, 39 points with 10 triples and 2 steals on 67% shooting, including this game, which makes up 20% of the games that he's played in the last 2 weeks. Oubre is the 156th ranked player. That just goes to show you how terrible the other 4 games were. And that is Oubre. He'll have these games where he goes absolutely bananas, and then he'll have 6 points on 12 shots with 1 rebound. While Haywood is out, sure, he's a 12-team league guy. But other games, it's really hard to trust him, really hard. Miles Bridges only played 28 minutes, 22 points for him, while Rozier had 20 in his 28 minutes with 2 steals. And Cody Martin had 1 steal and 2 blocks. So bring the good defensive numbers. Had some early foul troubles there, Martin. Hit 2 threes as well. Again, more of a defensive stats streamer at the moment. We saw PJ Washington getting like 27, 28 minutes a night. He played 18. Instead, he had 9 points with 4 assists, while Plumlee played 27 and had 7, 4, and 6. It's what makes Washington hard to trust as well. He's fine if you want him in a 12-team league, but like so many guys, and this is going to really come into focus when we talk about the Clippers players, is that like you can look at Washington and played 27 minutes a night and you go, you add him for 12-team leagues. And then this comes up. And basically, nearly every player from like 110 to 190 are going to have stretches where you add them and then they become droppable. And you just churn through. And very, very rarely, especially at this point of the season, do those sort of players who aren't seeing a change in role, it's not like there's an injury happening and Plumlee's out and now Washington's playing 32 a night. It's very rare that those sort of players elevate themselves into absolute must-roster players. They'll have little stretches of 2 or 3 games and they drop back off and they come in and out of lineups. So if you want to add them, if you want to drop them, in the end, that sort of decision doesn't mean as much as how active you are in streaming and maximizing your games played for the week versus holding on to PJ Washington, hoping for a 27-minute-a-night game versus an 18-minute game. Like that's where you have to be not as tied to a player who just had 2 big games and thinking, well, I must have him now, and then that will then follow. Like, you can try it, but a lot of the time it's just, hey, let's just get a guy in and see what happens. And then if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and you hold for a short period, and then you move on. And rather than, I'm going to hold just in case this happens down the line, shout out to Andre Drummond and people who are holding him in their leagues. For the Pacers, just a shit game. Like, just dreadful stuff. Impressed with Isaiah Jackson. 24 minutes, 17 points, a 111, good numbers. But again, really hard to take too much out of this game. He's not going to play 24 minutes most nights, especially when Sabonis is back. But who knows what happens as they move forward. But Dadze, only 19 minutes, 17 and 6. I would still be holding Goga in 12 teams. And Lance Stevenson had 7 assists in the first quarter, ended with 14, 6, and 10. It's a really good game from Lance. He's now the 278th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. Do not froth this game. Do not get excited. Look, this is how stupid this game was. LeVert played under 20 minutes. Justin Holiday, 23. Duarte, 22. The starters were just benched. And it was just weird, basically, right from the start. Don't read into LeVert playing those few minutes. Don't read into too much of Duarte playing 22. Although, on a healthy team, he is not a must-roster player. Chris Duarte, we have seen it for 3 months already. He's not a must-roster player. Now that Brogdon is out, you add him and you see where we go, and maybe we're holding and hoping something happens. But if the team's healthy and playing, he is not a must-roster player. Justin Holiday, again, falls into that same role. He's a fringe sort of player. You get some steals and threes out of him at times. He's a nice little top 90 run. Then he goes back out to the top 160. And it's fine to have him and it's fine to not. Knowing when to move on and how to maximize the use out of him is what the hard thing is to do. And it's important to be able to do that. It's like, stashing O'Shea Brissett. He played 17 minutes with no Sabonis or Turner. What's your expectation long-term for him? Shouldn't be good. 5 and 6 with 2 steals for Brissett. I hope all that makes sense what I'm talking about. Fringe waiver wire guys and maybe the over-reliance we have on them or the overly hyped expectations we have on these players that cutting bait and moving on and making the required streams is way more important. Or finding the guy whose role is actually elevated long-term. Rather than maybe it's elevated if this and this and this happens and then X happens and then Y happens and then this guy's role gets elevated. And that's not going to work out. But when you have a situation where this bloke's role is actually going to be elevated the rest of the season, then you take that flyer and see what happens. Right? I think that's really, really important to understand that versus the transient nature of most waiver wire pickups. Let's go to the second game. Cavs. Just stomping teams. Bucks, who cares? 115.99. We'll kill them. We'll have everyone out. We'll just beat everyone. Don't worry about it. Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
92% from the line. My Watfo of Giannis being over 70% from the line this year is looking pretty good. That's great. 92%, 11 of 12. 26, 9 and 3, not his best overall line. He is now the 10th ranked player for the season, not punting free throws. Really good stuff. Chris Middleton had 21, 4 and 4, while Punch Bob had 22 and 7 in his 32 minutes. And this was a game without Grayson Allen, who was suspended, and Wes Matthews. They started Paddy Connaughton. He played 32 minutes. He had 11 points with 3 threes. I don't really care about that for 12-team leagues. And DiVincenzo, one of his better games, if not his best, 28 minutes, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals. That's the problem with DiVincenzo. Right? I like him as a player, but even in a 30-minute-a-night role, he's probably just a fringe guy and a steal streamer. And this is a game without Allen and Matthews, and he's going to drop back off, I would suggest. Bad game from Drew, 4 points on 9 shots with 6 rebounds and 7 assists. I wouldn't panic too much. While Nwora got 15 minutes with those 2 wing players out, and he'll go back out of the rotation. But the Cavs, man, Jesus. They did this as well with Darius Garland playing just 26 minutes due to a back injury. Garland's back is bothering him, and I think he's going to have some time off coming up. Don't know when, don't know if. I think he will, though. He had 19, 2 and 8 in 26 minutes. Kevin Love, there's no Lauri Markkanen, so Love goes from a 21-minute-a-night guy to 25, 26. He had 25 points, 5 threes, 9 rebounds, 2 steals. Great stuff. Absolute must-roster player. And then the Discman, Cedi Osman. Now, everything about this team, hey, there's no Sexton. There's no Rubio. There's no Markkanen. Hey, it's a perfect opportunity for Osman to step up. And JB Bickerstaff went, what are you're fucking joking, yeah? 19 minutes, 2 points. And I went, all right, okay, cool. Look, no worries. Let's play Dean Wade. Let's play Lamar Stevens. Osman's out there and can do it. All right, cool. We give up on him. You gave up on him, did you? All right, 23 points, 6 triples, 4 assists, and 2 steals. I don't know what to make of this with Osman. It falls into that situation. You can stream him if you want. You can add him in. But I have absolutely no trust that he's going to play 30 minutes a night. It could go back to Dean Wade playing 30 minutes a night next game and Osman playing 19. But this is what I talked about with Osman. The opportunity is there. With no Sexton, with no Rubio, with no Markkanen, to get some extra scoring, to get some extra shots, and get some extra minutes. It just hasn't come to fruition until now. Jarrett Allen returned, double-double, 10 and 10, while Mobley had 16 and 7 with 2 blocks and got his free throws back up, which is good. And Dean Wade, who played 28 minutes last game, played 14. He had 10 points with 2 threes in this game. He had some foul trouble, so that probably helps with Osman. And Isaac Okoro really doing his best to be the shittest fantasy player in the world. 3 points in 29 minutes. I think he does really, really well defensively. Very, very good defensive player. Really strong. Helps his team out immensely. Does nothing for fantasy leagues. Nothing. He's the 249th ranked player this season. Do not touch him onto your 12-team league. Do not touch him onto your 14-team league. Do not let him sniff the dick of your 16-team league. He's not worth it. Unfortunately for him, good perimeter defense that doesn't generate steals in big bunches is not good for fantasy. And that's where Okoro thrives. Rondo's just an assist streamer. He had 5 of them here. Not much else. Shot poorly. That's cool. Let's go on to the next game. The Clippers and the Magic. The Clippers are the perfect example or illustration of what I'm talking about with the waiver wire players going up and down in value continually. All right, this is just what happens. Amir Coffey played like 18 minutes one game and looked terrible and played 25 the game before that. And now he has 19, 6, and 5 with 3 threes in 34 minutes. But remembering, Marcus Morris is out. That's 30 minutes right there. And they're going to come from somewhere. But more importantly, the shots are going to come from somewhere. So do we expect Amir Coffey to be second in the team in shot attempts? Probably not. So you stream him in, take a crack, 37 fantasy points here, top 60 over the last 2 weeks in category leagues. Take a crack. But maybe he goes back outside the top 150 really soon. Same with Batum, 12 and 7, 4 threes and a steal. Like, add these guys, try them, but don't be married to them. Same goes with the Duck, Luke Kennard, who played 32 minutes, had 17 and 5 with 2 threes. Kennard's issue is here, right? 1 assist, 0 steals, 0 blocks, and did it on 67%, which is not real. Took only 9 shots. Remember, no Morris. He goes back to 28 minutes, and he shoots 4 of 9 instead of 6 of 9. You're talking about 12, 5, and 1, or maybe 12, 4, and 1. And you go, that's like a fart. Like, that's nothing. What's good about it? They're totally fine to have. Absolutely fine to roster them. But they're just going to be sitting there churning in and out. Justice Winslow really stepped up with Morris out. Played really well. 7 points, 8 rebounds, 2 steals. Missed all 4 of his shots, but he's more of an on-court impact guy. Shout out Isaac Okoro versus a fantasy guy. Zubats had some foul trouble. Serge Ibaka had being old and being Serge Ibaka problems. And Hartenstein had foul troubles too. The 3-center rotation wrecking havoc with our fantasy league. If Hartenstein didn't get in foul trouble, I reckon he would have played 20. He had 5 and 4 in 19 minutes. And there's enough there for me to take a flyer, at least in 14s. Zubats 8 and 7. And again, he's going to be in that, he's a back-end 12 guy. Do I hold? Do I not? Terrence Mann had 14 points in 27 minutes. I don't think he's a 12-team league player. And I don't know what to do with Reggie Jackson. That's 2 absolute duds in a row. 9 and 4, 27%. Eric Bledsoe got the minutes over him. He had a really bad run, a really strong run, a really bad run, a really strong one, now a really bad run. He's all over the shop. Can you drop him? Sure. It really would depend on who I'm adding. Is he a top 100 upside rest of season? Probably not. But he's going to have better games than this. He's just really struggling at the moment. Brandon Boston was basically out of the rotation for periods of this game, which is disappointing considering how well he'd been playing. Good news if you have Cole Anthony. He looked much better. 19, 6, and 11, 2 steals and a block. Hit all of his free throws. That's really encouraging. It's also massively encouraging to see that even though Anthony played that much and did that well, the Jalen Suggs still played more. 35 minutes for Suggsy. 14, 4, and 3. Not his best game. Suggs is a must roster. Anthony's a must roster, as is only Franz Wagner. 21, 3, and 9 with 2 steals. Again, be careful. The 9 assists was sick. That's awesome. 75% shooting might overvalue what he does. Of course, he remains a must roster player without any doubt. Gary Harris returned and played 31 off the bench. Interesting minutes distribution there, while Terrence Ross played only 17. Harris we can drop from 12, same with Ross. While Bumba played 26 minutes, had 10 and 8. He is still a hold. Not sure it's going to last, but he is still a hold. While we talked about him on the waiver wire show earlier today, saying Chuma Okeke was playing well, but when the players were firing up, when Bumba was getting more minutes, where was Chuma getting the playing time? 17 minutes for Chuma, 4 points, 2 rebounds. He had 3 steals, and that is how you should be treating Chuma Okeke, as a steals streaming option, nowhere near close to a must roster 12-team league guy. Wendell Carter had 11 and 9. Just a solid game from Wendell. Nothing too spectacular there. Let us go on to the next game. Knicks fans, how you feeling? The Heat beat them 110-96, and honestly, it wasn't really this close. Tom Thibodeau is a bad coach. He has worn this team out already. He is so stubborn, though. This starting lineup is one of, they've got like a -8 net rating, which is really horrible for a starting lineup. Yet they have played the 3rd most minutes out of any 5-man combination in the entire league. This is the man who started Alfred Payton every game last season, despite it being clear that he wasn't an NBA starting point guard, and would consistently put his teams in holes, giggity, and try and get them to come out of it. And now it just keeps happening. He has to make a change, but if it was any other coach, you would say it's guaranteed. But he has to make a change, and he probably won't. Kemba Walker looks really bad. 7 points in 19 minutes. Evan Fournier, 7 points in 20 minutes. Yeah, my initial reaction to their offseason was it was a terrible offseason. And then I sort of mellowed on it a bit. It wasn't a good offseason. Julius Randle looks terrible. Again, What the hell has gone wrong with this guy? Actually, that's not true. What the hell happened to him last year where he looked good? Because he'd been bad basically every other season. 11, 6, and 4 with poor shooting and no defensive stats. He's just a very hard player to build around and doesn't want to be built around, apparently. Or doesn't want to build around others. Rowan Barrett had been playing well. Only had 17, 3, and 2 here. Played 24 minutes. Robinson had 7 and 2. But the guys who come in and provide excitement for this team are Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley. They play with pace. They play with urgency. They play with energy. The other blokes just go out there and finger their own assholes. Like, I don't know what they're doing. Toppin, 18 points. I don't think Obi Toppin is a particularly good player. But
I don't want to hear any more about Obi-Wan.
He was bloody good here. 18 and 5. The problem is, unless it's a blowout, he's just not going to play. Thibodeau won't play him. Quickly, 12, 3, and 7 with 2 steals. We've been calling since like January last year, saying, hey, can we just see what happens when Quickly starts? Why are we starting Alfred Payton? Why are we starting Alec Burks now? Why are we starting Kemba Walker? Yeah, Tibbs just won't play the dude. I know he's going to have some shot selection issues and he's not the greatest defender. But at some point, you're not going anywhere with this team. You got to build these guys up. Quentin Grimes, big minutes again. 6 points in 31 minutes, but 2 threes, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Again, looks solid. Needs minutes. Just a deeper league guy. Cam Reddish, 10 minutes, garbage time. Not in the rotation. Wouldn't bank on it for 12-team leagues. Wouldn't bother holding him. Alec Burks, 3 points in 15 minutes.
Get that garbage out of here!
Oh, by the way, that goes for Kemba and Fournier as well. You don't need to hold on to the disease scrotum. And Kemba can get all the way out of there as well.
Hello.
Goodbye. But yeah, they're just bad. Poor roster construction. They do the thing with, oh my God, we came 4th in the Eastern Conference last year, so therefore we're on the rise, with no actual young star talent or star talent players at all. One of the worst things that could have happened was that finish and Julius Randle being named second team All-NBA. Because he shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have been close to it. And they're in real trouble. Don't know what they do here. First though, Thibodeau has to make a change. He has to mix things up. And I don't know if he has got the ability to do that. For the Heat, a lot of people adding Victor Oladipo. Apparently there was a video of him working out, saying that he's going to return sometime next month. Yes, that has always been the expectation, that he would come back in February. But does Victor Oladipo play 30 minutes a night on this Heat team by the time you hit fantasy playoffs? Honestly, by any point this season. And your logical brain should tell you no. I don't see how. Is he getting minutes? Is he taking minutes away from Tyler Hero, from Kyle Lowry, from Jimmy Butler? It's a three-headed no there. And then you've got Robinson. You've got the Winter Soldier. You've got Caleb Martin. And they're all, they can be sort of expendable. You have Robinson shooting probably not so much, because he's playing well now. But is Oladipo more than a 22-minute-a-night player who will be severely limited and hasn't played since April last year, have low efficiency, low minutes, resting back-to-backs? Having him on your team, stashing when you still don't know when he's going to come back, and I don't think he's going to be anywhere near effective enough, is hamstringing your fantasy team. You will get so much more value streaming in an Amir Coffey or a Gary Harris or those sort of guys rather than waiting for Victor Oladipo to turn the clock back to 2018, which is just not going to happen. Gabe Vincent, 8 points only, but 5 assists, 2 steals. Solid enough stream with Lowry out. Hero had 21 in his first game back, while Duncan Robinson, another 7 triples in 25 points. Does nothing else, but shot really, really well. 69%.
Giggity!
He is on an absolute roll, hitting threes. That's what he is, though. He's a 3-point streamer. It's a hot streak. He's a great shooter, but it will cool off. Butler had 22, 6, and 5, and Adebayo only 6 points, but 8 rebounds and 11 assists. Those 11 assists, it's no Lowry. That's the impact. 2 steals and a block. Good to see him getting the defensive numbers going here, though. Omer Yurtseven, 2 minutes of garbage time. If you are still holding Omer Yurtseven, you are obviously not listening to this podcast, or you are obviously not playing and you are not active in your fantasy league anymore. Who was more embarrassing? The Kings or the Knicks? It's got to be the Kings, doesn't it? Surely. They lost by like 40 points to the Celtics yesterday, and then they're like 30 points down here to the Hawks. In the end, they lose by 17. It's just embarrassing, man. They are horrendously bad. They need to blow everything up. Everything. You keep one player. You keep Tyrese Halliburton. Everyone else can go. I'll see you later. De'Aaron Fox on your bike. Bud Hield, no way. Rashawn Holmes, love him, but see you later. Harrison Barnes, let's go. They should aim to not win a single game post All-Star break because they've traded everyone away for draft picks and young prospects. They have no future with the way that they have been trying to approach things for the last 16 years. But they won't do that, of course. They just won't do it. The pencil, Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. This is more reminiscent of the Barnes that we saw to begin the season. 11 of 12 from the line, 28 points, 3 threes, 9 rebounds. First real good game he's had since he returned. He is a 12-team league must-roster player. Good game. Rashawn Holmes, better stuff as well. 12 and 5, 2 steals, 2 blocks. The buy low's still a little bit open there for Holmesy, while Halliburton didn't really step up with Fox out. 11 points, 7 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Not a bad night. It was a great game from Davion Mitchell. Good. 20 points, 4 triples, 6 assists in 31 minutes. When Fox returns, he's not going to be worth doing anything for 12-team leagues. I wouldn't worry about him as a 12-team league guy. Hield stepped up with Terrence Davis out into a couple more minutes. 30 points. No, he didn't. I wish he had 30. He had 8 points in 30 minutes with 8 rebounds and 25% shooting. And he's not a must-roster player. When the bloke's 111th this season, I've got him projected to be a little bit worse than that as we move forward. You can have him. But if I looked at a waiver wire and Buddy Hield was there, I wouldn't go, and this is always my definition of this stuff when I talk must-roster. If I look at a waiver wire and Buddy Hield's on it, if I looked at it and go, man, your league's insane, why is he on the waiver wire? That means he's a must-roster. If I look at it and I don't really give it any second attention, I just go, oh, yeah, okay, I get that. That means he's not a must-roster. It means you totally can have him. And if it works with your team and you want to take that flight, no worries at all. All right, it's totally fine. But if he doesn't elicit a what the fuck are you doing response from me if someone's on your waiver wire, then he's not a must-roster player. Because as I said, there's like an 80 to 100 pool player of players who could easily fill the last 3 roster spots in a 12-team league. And that's like 36 players. It's like 100 blokes who could fit into that spot. And Hield's one of those guys. Marvin Bagley, he's back to terrible. Cal Surprise, 9 and 4 in 22 minutes for Bagley. I'm learning French again, if you didn't realize. On to the Atlanta Hawks. Well, they didn't have to try. Simple as that. Trae Young had 17, 3 and 10. Okongwu, 18 and 7 in 20 minutes. Bogdanovic, 18, 3 and 7 in 23 minutes. Big games from Bogdanovic. But we don't have an impact of what Bogdanovic and Herter and Hunter, what they're going to do to each other, because they just didn't need to play. Hunter played 17 minutes, had 9 points. 80% shooting. Herter had 8, 3 and 1 and played 19 minutes. But this is not a competitive game. So we don't know what the minutes rotation and what the shot distribution is going to be when they need to win games, when they are playing in a situation where it's not a laugh for a half. So we hold Hunter, we hold Herter, you can add Bogdanovic, and we'll see what happens. Capella had 8 and 8 in only 21 minutes. Johnny Collins, 9 and 6. Bilow's still open on John Collins, by the way, but do not expect high level production. Just embarrassing stuff, again, from Sacramento. And it's just a common refrain to say that, isn't it? The Denver Nuggets, they go into Brooklyn against a team that's not really the usual Brooklyn Nets team. They go in and they get the victory. 124-118. Let's do it. Yeah, man, he's real good. 26, 10 and 8 with 2 threes. I think for my end of January awards, he's going to be MVP. It's going to be him, Giannis, and Embiid, I think, as the top 3. He's so good. 51 fantasy points, number 1 fantasy player this year. While off the bench, Austin Rivers came out of nowhere. 25 points, 7 triples, 2 steals. Do not rely upon that. Do not bank upon it at all. But of course, because Austin Rivers has been in the league a long time, he gets the minutes and the big stiffy does not. Bones Highland out of the rotation so that Bryn Forbes can go out there and be shocking once again. Again, I've said this a lot of times on this show that coaches, they rely so heavily on veterans. They rely so heavily on relationships or the way players act off court when, what's Bryn Forbes giving me that Bones Highland isn't? And you're taking away development on court time from Highland. What does he give you? Nothing. Actually 0. Not one thing better. Not one. In fact, many things significantly worse. But you got to respect him. He won a ring, boys. He won a ring. Yeah, he was a huge part of the ring. Yeah, you got to respect him. Cool. No worries. Jeff Green. I think we said this. Was it yesterday or the day before the Nuggets played? He had 20 points. I said, all right, that's his one good game for the rest of the month, or for the next month. He'll have 7 points next game. He had 6 points. This is why you don't add Jeff Green. You leave him for deeper leagues. Aaron Gordon had been playing well. He had 10 in 30. That's shithouse. Well, DeMarcus Cousins, 13 and 6 in 13 minutes. That's great per minute production. Of course, he got ejected. Didn't shoot particularly well. Please do not roster DeMarcus Cousins in 12 or 14 team leagues. Please. What are you doing? Why are we doing that? You don't need to do that. No need. Will Barton had 21 and 10 in 34 minutes, while Monty Morris, again, illustrating the point that he is totally adequate with absolutely zero excitement in his upside. 10, 4 and 4 and 28. Every time I should talk about Monty Morris, I should talk about him with the most boring voice ever. 10, 4 and 4 in 28 minutes. He is fine on a roster, but you do not have to have him. In fact, you can leave him on the wire. That's what it is. It's just the same boring bullshit every game. And that has a place in a fantasy playoffs. Shit, the Nuggets will play 4 and Monty will play 30 a game and give me 12, 4 and 4. That's totally reliable. But there's no bloody upside. I'm not chasing shit with that. There's no value in it. Faku had 2 points in 20 minutes. Cool. 6 assists for him. He took 1 shot. No worries. On to the Nets. There was no Jim. There was no Kyrie. There was no Durante. Harden probably is back for Saturday's game. Kyrie is definitely back for Saturday's game. Durant is not. There was also no Nick Claxton and no Day'Ron Sharpe. They started Aldridge. He played 33 minutes and had 18 and 8. He was bad with his percentages, but I do really fear it's a 3-center rotation, not including Blake Griffin, which is going to make it hard for Claxton, for Aldridge, to be must-roster 12s. They're fine to have, but they're not going to be must. With no Kyrie, Cam Thomas, 25 points, 4 threes, 26 minutes. Totally fine. Like, that's great. That's what we expect. The problem is, if Harden and Kyrie play next game, he'll play like 12 minutes and he'll do nothing. So there's no value there. Patrick Mills had 21 points with 6 assists and 4 threes. Well, Jim Johnson, we don't get a chance to do it very often, so I'm going to take full advantage. Did Jim Johnson make us proud? Yes, Jimmy Johnson, 12, 8, 7, 3 steals, 38 minutes, means nothing. He is the 359th ranked player this year. That's just great to see in a spot start, but don't worry about that. Kessler Edwards bought the 2 blocks, 6 rebounds. That's what he provides. Some defensive stats. His minutes are going to be solid as we move forward. And Bembry had 14 in his 26 minutes. Also, when you can get 21 minutes out of Javon Carter, you know you're going to lose. 13 points in those 21 minutes for him, while Griffin played 15 minutes. And Bruce Brown, remember how good Bruce Brown was last year? 0 points in 12 minutes. So that is, I don't know, the opposite of cool, I guess. Let's go to the next game. The Chicago Bulls. They beat the Raptors 111-105. No Fred VanVleet again, but Scotland Barnes returned. Played 38 minutes, had 16, 5, and 7. Really, really strong game from Barnes. Solid enough. 33 fantasy points. Bad from the line. But, yeah, strong stuff. Siakam, who'd been playing great, played terribly. Actually, not true. Shot terribly. 12 points on 25%, but 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals. And then Gary Trent, back-to-back big scoring games. In fact, back-to-back 32-point games before he was ejected. 32 points with 6 triples. But this, again, illustrates the Gary Trent issue. He was a buy low on the last show. He is now a sell high after having 64 points in the last 2 games. He had 32 points. He took 22 shots because there's no Fred VanVleet, so just taking all of the shots. They went in, 11 of 22. That's not the level of shooter he is. He had 1 rebound and 2 assists and just the 1 steal. Now, he needed like 2.5 steals, along with shooting 50% to maintain that top 70 run. All right, the scoring is great, but it's without VanVleet, and it's with shooting 50%. It's tying 3 things together. Usage, minutes, field goal percentage, all spiking at once gives you a great game. But when you look past it, the 1 rebound, 2 assists, there's no protection if he has an off night. There's none. There's just no protection there. So, you buy low when everything was going horribly for him. You sell high now for a top 70 player, because there'll be still people that believe in him as a top 60 guy. There are still people out there. So you translate this into that player. You just got to find the right guy. OG Anunoby.
But what about scarves?
OG.
Balenciaga
Stop,
ones.
OG. You better stop, OG.
2 good games in a row for him. 23, 5, and 4, a steal, 2 blocks, 3 triples. Great. People say he's been a disappointment this year. He's a 56th ranked player. Like, yeah, I hoped he could be top 45. He's not that far off. Malachi Flynn didn't really build on what he did yesterday, while Boucher, 9 points in 29 minutes. Still a 12-team league guy. It could come crashing down. When Birch and VanVleet return, if Boucher's playing 22 minutes a night, he probably isn't 12. And that's a distinct possibility. Precious Achiuwa continues to be actually one of the most unwatchable players for me in the NBA. 3 points, 25%, 23 minutes. I don't think he's ever going to be good. And he's just, for me, aesthetically, it just doesn't work as a player. For the Bulls, we got DeRozan, we got Levine playing together. DeRozan was ejected, but they're not. Got 2 techs, but one of the techs wasn't an ejection-worthy tech, or some bullshit for hanging onto the net. 29, 7 and 7, great game. Levine, 23, 8 and 8, great game. Big Nick Vucevic.
It's Big Vucevic.
He was great as well. 17, 15 and 8 with great percentages. Actually, his free throw percentage was 0 of 0 because he doesn't get to the line. But good numbers from all of those 3. And of course, with those 3 doing that, everyone else did not much. Ayo Dosunmu. We'd seen what he'd done. He'd been playing really well. Assists up. Shooting really up. What was it going to do when DeRozan and Levine got there? And he shot 30%. He had 7, 2, and 4. He didn't need a 3. This is the worry I have with Dosunmu. 13% usage is that it's such a low usage player whose efficiency fluctuates so much. I would recommend holding for now. I do not think he will remain must roster for very long if they maintain these guys playing. Kobe White only 24 minutes. Going to be hard with Green back for him to maintain 12-team must roster status. 9 points there. In fact, if there was someone out there you wanted to grab and you wanted to drop White or Dosunmu, no problem with it. Not a problem at all. Because again, it's just hard to find that expanded role for those guys. Or in Dosunmu's case, how does he get enough usage and maintain that insane shooting to be relevant enough? I'm not sure he can. Javonte Green had 12 and 6. That's a good production line for him, but we don't rely upon it. While Troy Brown moved to the bench, had 8 points with 2 threes. Next game. Memphis just keeps rolling along. They beat the San Antonio Spurs 118-110, and it was another really big night for Ja Morant. Morant has been on a real tear at the moment. 41 points in 37 minutes, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 3 threes. 18th ranked player over the last 2 weeks, 64 fantasy points. He shot 54% from the field, 8 of 10 from the line. Really doing some good stuff. I think there is going to be a bit of a drop-off coming for Morant, but he's playing well. Jaren Jackson. Sheesh. 22 and 9 with 6 blocks. Unfortunately, he was just 3 of 7 from the line. But that's the holy shit game that we know Jaren can do at times. We just need more consistency. Brandon Clark returned 8, 6, and 3, a steal and a block, 20 minutes. Look, again, fine. Hold him in 12s. Upside's not particularly high. Well, Desi Bane returned, had 20 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. We've had about 2 games where Melton, Morant, Brooks, and Bane have all played together. So we still don't know how that hierarchy is going to go. But we just keep riding with Bane. And with Bane back, Melton played 24 minutes. He had 7 and 4 with 3 steals. You just drop him now. Johnny Conchar, 23 minutes. Drop him as well, while Zaire Williams had 11 in 26 minutes. All right, cool. On to the Spurs. Jakob Poeltl, 18, 7 and 5, 2 steals, 4 blocks, 8 of 8 from the line. Let me tell you a few things. People do not believe in Jakob Poeltl. Some of you will. I really like him as a player. But multiple times this season, at the beginning of the year, hey, should I draft Jock Landale, 12-team league? He'll come in, him and Poeltl will split the minutes at the center. Are you fucking kidding me? Split the minutes? Do you know how good Jakob Poeltl is? And now I had someone today say, hey, I probably won't be long until Collins is taking those minutes away from Poeltl. Zach Collins this is. Collins will probably come in, a chance to start maybe at the 4, or him and Poeltl will just have a minute share. Do you know how good Jakob Poeltl is? It baffles my mind. So that in saying that, he is on an insane run at the moment. He is the 21st ranked player, Jakob Poeltl, over the last 2 weeks, while shooting 2% from the free throw line. Hyperbolic, I know, but it's a shit number. That's how good he has been. And yes, I do expect drop-off from there. But no, Zach Collins is not coming in and saying, right, Jakob, it's been great, but the big fella Zach is here now. Everyone just take a seat. I'm ready to go. No. Jakob Poeltl's good. He's really, really good. He's really, really good. DeJounte Murray's really good too. 16, 10, and 11 with 2 steals. Didn't shoot well, but the numbers have been excellent for him. While Keldon Johnson actually on a nice little run here. I know I'm critical of Keldon, but I try and just say, call it as I see it. He's playing well. 18 points, 4 threes, 2 steals, and a block. Back inside the top 100 over the last 2 weeks. Can that stick? I don't know. 150th for the season, but ride him while it's going. Derek White, 14, 3 and 5, steal and a block. Better game, still not great. Well, we got 30 minutes from Devin Vassell. Yes, hallelujah. 20 points, but not much else. You give me 30 a night, must roster guy. Absolute must roster. He actually turns into must roster. So I think if he got 30, he's a top 100 player. That is must roster. I don't have confidence in those minutes, though. McDermott played just 22. Walker played under 20. And if I was coaching them, that's what I'd be doing every game. McDermott, Walker, you guys play the low minutes. Let Vassell in there. If you want to take a speculative ad thinking that Popovich is now going to be moving to Vassell 30 a night, do it. You don't want to miss out, I don't think. But I don't really believe that is the way the minutes are going to move as we go forward. I don't believe that'll be the case. Just touching back on Zach Collins, no, I do not believe Zach Collins is going to be a 12 or 14 team league guy this season. He hasn't played since the bubble, I think, with multiple fractures in his feet. And he's going to be a backup, I guess, on limited minutes with rests involved. I don't think that he's... I liked him coming out of Gonzaga into the draft. I thought, hey, there's some real potential here. Hasn't really shown us that at any point on the NBA court. And now dealing with multiple foot fractures, it's really hard for me to, again, stash a bloke to hope that at some point in March he's playing 27 a night. I really, really doubt he's going to get that much of a minutes load this season. I could be very wrong on that. I just do not see it for Zach Collins. All right, so let's go to the next game. The Phoenix Suns win on the road against the Jazz, 105-97. Phoenix is just really good. Devin Booker was excellent, 43 points in 39 minutes. He had 12 boards with 4 assists. He was great from the line. He shot 57% from the field. His usage was high. He was excellent. And then Bismack Biyombo didn't quite do what he'd been doing in the other games, but he started with Ayton and McGee out, 12 and 6, 1 steal, 3 blocks. You just keep holding on to Biyombo until Ayton returns. Cam Johnson, also a 12-team league guy, while Crowder is out, 36 minutes, 8 points, 6 triples, and 2 threes, and Chris Paul had 21, 4, and 5. Just really good games. Not as good a game from Mikal Bridges, 7 points, but a steal and a block, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. I am still holding him, stubbornly, but I am holding him. While Jalen Smith had 8 and 6, 1 steal, 2 blocks. That's good, but remember, it requires Crowder, McGee, and Biyombo out for him to have this level of production. And he still only played 18 minutes. So, in the long and the short of that there's no 12-team value in him. For the Jazz, as I said earlier about Mitchell and Gobert, they were both out here. They're both going to miss some more time. Jordan Clarkson, 26 points, 30 minutes, 6 rebounds. As long as Mitchell is out, Clarkson's a 12-team league guy. Conley had 16 and 10, and your mate, Hassan Whiteside.
The world.
You just keep holding him. 16, 11, 2 blocks. He is a must-roster player, while Gobert is out. Ingles was pretty rough, 6 points in 25 minutes, while Trent Forrest hurt his ankle but was able to return 4 points there. Gay went scoreless. Royce O'Neal had 8 points with 5 assists, also a 1-1. Royce is, very much similar to a Monty Morris. Fine to have, but the upside is just actually non-existent. Let's go on to the last game of the night. We're looking at the Dallas Mavericks comfortably handling the Portland Trailblazers on the road. The Blazers on their road trip played well, and they've come home, and they've been terrible. 132-112. Jalen Brunson was great. 20 and 6, 11 assists. He, of course, is a must-roster player. While Doncic had 15, 10 and 15. Rough shooting night from Donch, but everything else was good. No Tim Hardaway. Of course, he's done for the year. Reggie Bullock, 15 points, 25 minutes, 4 threes. That's a solid game, but it's not 12-team worthy. Josh Green only played 15 minutes. Ntilikina played 15. As expected yesterday, I don't think anyone is going to make the jump into 12-team league discussions. It was a good Muxie Cleaver game. 12 points, 2 threes, 3 blocks, but we don't trust it. We stream him in for blocks, and that's about it. While Dwight Powell had 15 and 5, but only played 18 minutes. Took 100% shooting to get there. Do not rely upon that at all. Finney Smith, he's very much in the Royce O'Neal mold, isn't he? 11, 4 and 2, 2 threes. It's totally fine. It's not great. It's not awesome. It's not awful. It's solid. Porzingis played 27 minutes on a back-to-back and had 22 and 5. Didn't shoot well, didn't block any shots, but it's still a good game. Now, the Blazers were without Lillard, Little, Covington, Zeller, Nance, and Smith. Obviously really beat up. Norm Powell moved back into the starting lineup, 36 minutes, 19 and 9, shot 29%, and then a horrific 58 from the line. That's really painful. If Powell was dropped, you go and add him, though. I imagine he keeps starting. Simons had 23, 2 and 7. Really good game from Anthony. I think top 60, top 50 is possible for him rest of season, while McCollum had 20 and 4 with 6 assists. And given there's no big men at all in this team, CJ Allaby had to play 20 minutes. He's not even a big man, but he had to play those minutes. 7 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists with a 1-1. That's got value in 16 to 18 team leagues. Nurk had some foul... No, he didn't have foul trouble, honestly. He just didn't play much. 31 minutes, 18 and 8. It's okay. Well, Tone Snell, the guy, again, the award of who does the least with the most. 2 points in 29 minutes, and Macklemore had 9 points with 3 threes. They are in real trouble. If Covington is missing extended time, if Little misses extended time, and you got Nance and Zeller out for a long time, they've got no big men. No forwards, no big men, nothing at all. It's going to be really rough, and I think that will mean that you don't see Damian Lillard return this season. That is my expectation there. Let's look at the lines of the night. The monstrous and your waiver wire goes to LaMelo Ball. Your young gun and your monstrous goes to LaMelo. Your waiver wire goes to Austin Rivers, who got hot off the Denver bench. And your dud of the night is Bojan Bogdanovic. Maybe that finger issues was bothering him. He chucked that splint off at some point in that game. And we'll see what that means for his recovery. And he's prone to some bad shooting nights for sure. Actually, before I move on to talk about the top performers, I'll put the screen up there so you can see it. There's some consternation and some confusion about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is set to return Saturday against the Golden State Warriors. And multiple people have now said it, and with confusion, he can't play against the Warriors because of the vaccine mandate in San Francisco. That is not true. Much like in New York, the mandate does not apply to visiting teams and visiting players. So Irving will be allowed to play in that game. Kyrie Irving is not the only unvaccinated player in the NBA. I think we think that because he is the high-profile guy, and the other high-profile guys, Michael Porter Jr., injured. Jonathan Isaac, a figment of our imagination. Bradley Beal, now currently vaccinated. Like, we haven't seen this in play. But Trey Burke's unvaccinated. He literally played at Golden State yesterday. Played only 8 minutes, but he played. He was there. He didn't have to sit out because he's unvaccinated. So Kyrie is going to play in that game on Saturday, just because that if you are a Warriors player, you can't play at home. It's the same as any people coming to New York. If you're not from one of the New York teams, you're okay to play. The rules are dumb, but that's just what they are. So if you are worried that Kyrie's not returning on Saturday, I'm here to tell you that he is. Now, I can't wait for them to come out and prove me wrong, but it would make no sense. Again, considering Trey Burke literally played 1 day ago. So Kyrie is going to play in that game. Top 10 players: LaMelo Ball, Kelly Oubre, Nikola Jokic, Devin Booker, Cole Anthony, Ja Morant, Jakob Poeltl, Nikola Vucevic, Kevin Love, and Jimmy Butler. Your top 10 under 50%. Austin Rivers at number 1. Really nothing to look at there. Chetty Osman, do we fall for it? Probably not. Does he steal the Yusuf Nurkic sound drop?
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
I don't think so. Isaiah Jackson, that's a blowout. Obi Toppin's a blowout. Dwight Powell's a blowout. Muxie Kleber's a stream for deeper leagues. Okongwu's a blowout. James Johnson, everyone's injured. Emmanuel Quickley, a blowout. Just a name to keep an eye on. And then PJ Tucker, no value. There's not much to look at there in terms of waiver producers, to be fair. The top 10 players in points leagues today, we've got Ja Morant at 1, followed by Booker, Ball, Oubre, Poeltl, Jokic, Anthony, Doncic, Jaren Jackson, and DeJounte Murray. That will do it for me today, guys. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on the Odyssey app. If you are here on YouTube, thumb it up. Leave your comments down below, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.